What's going on, everybody? Christian from Treasure Town here, and today we're going to be talking about the downsides or the cons of a hot coin market. I mean, right now, coins have been doing pretty well, pretty consistently, and I think that that's been great because it's meant a lot of people have been getting into the hobby or getting back into the hobby because they're excited about the potential for the future. It leads to a pretty healthy dealer ecosystem, and there's, more people from my perspective getting excited about US and world history, which is great. Maybe people see coins as a better investment or more of a legitimate investment, though remember that this is just entertainment, not investing content. But there's also some problems with this, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. I want to highlight a few of the things just to be careful so that you can be careful with how you go about it, as well as just to be aware of some things that exist that are out there that probably set in and creep in, and I'm a little bit worried about with a good coin market as it is right now. Let's get into the video. All right, so the first thing is going to be, maybe some people are saying that this is complaining, but I am not really considering this a complaint from my perspective. I think it's just something that you need to be thinking about, and that is that there can be a little bit of an commoditization. I don't know exactly the right word to describe it, but where people are just looking at coins as a thing to flip as opposed to a more healthy, sustainable, maybe the market's solid and there's some clear opportunity or like a slow trickle going up. When things start really getting, exciting, think about some of the crypto, and it's been great for the people, as of the time that I'm filming this video, it's like $50,000 for one Bitcoin. There certainly, I remember back when it hit 20,000 a few years ago, a lot of people I know bought in around that time and then sold, a few months later, maybe when it was like $4,000. So, there's been some big bust cycles before in coins. It was kind of slow trending a little bit downward for a few years, but that doesn't even compare to like 30, 40 years ago. There were some serious, crazy upswings and then really hard downswings. And so this is something, I'm not like saying to be worried about it, but it's just like, how are you approaching coins? And so, I think that people can get caught up in like, oh, here's a coin, it's totally going to be worth X amount. And I think that one thing I talked about in my last video where I talked about the pros, it's a healthy dealer ecosystem with a lot of different dealers getting in is great. But when a ton of people flood in viewing themselves as dealers, it can often create an effect where there's all these dealers selling to each other, and people are paying a little bit more, and it's true that the prices of things have moved up. But you also have to think about, what are the end collectors? So the really positive case would be people are super appreciating coins, and a lot of collectors want to own these coins. They're buying them for their collection to own for a long time and, have them appreciate, and they're not going to be circulating back. But I think what can happen is when there's a lot of these dealers, there's also a possibility where the collecting base is sort of half of them are like collectors, dealers, and honestly that's what it's always been. But when there's too many people viewing it as a profit thing, it can kind of push things up like a little bit like a bubble, and then once there's not just a few weeks but like a real sell-off, then a lot of people are going to hop out because they just want to cut their losses. It wasn't retraced, and they weren't really in it because they have a really good coin knowledge. They don't have a great coin eye where they can do great things, and they haven't been like developing the contacts. It's pretty easy. If things are really hot going up, you don't need to do a huge amount of work to make profits and do well, so it can sustain some people short term that really won't be able to hang around for the drops just because maybe they don't have the right knowledge or they don't have the right interpersonal skills, and they don't sort of have a sense of how you need, the mannerisms and how you should be behaving as a dealer. So there are some problems from that perspective, and I just think it's like you should be thinking about, okay, how am I approaching coins? Because like for me, when I buy coins, and this is not necessarily the case with precious metals, but when I buy coins that have numismatic value, I buy them because I like them, and if they really dropped a lot in terms of their, what they could sell for, that's not going to be a problem in my bottom line. When you get people, I've heard crazy stories with collectibles. Sports cards has been hot and retraced a little bit. People like leveraging up, buying huge amounts of, say, cards on credit, like on with debt, and then when they can't move that, they're wiped out. They have to get rid of it, and it's a big loss. That's not how I'm going to be approaching coins. And I would probably say, maybe if you put a ton on debt and then things skyrocket, great. But like, coins is a lot more established than some of the other markets, which could be a healthy thing, but you're probably not going to see things quadruple in value overnight, maybe outside of inflate. I'm not even going to get into it, but I think that coins have less of a probability of just exploding in value, which is probably a good thing. You might be able to see a steady uptrend in a healthy market, but a lot of coins today are cheaper than they were 40 years ago, and think about the other investments you could have made 40 years ago with those dollars back then. So that's just something, I think that's like the biggest caution. I think the other one is that a lot of marketers get in, and when people think, oh, I can make some money buying coins, it's tough to make a lot of money at the end segment of, buying coins off of eBay when you're not a dealer. You're just hoping to stash them away in the closet, and especially the numismatic ones, then they're going to go way up in value. And a lot of people get marketed to and get sort of trapped up in, maybe they're called a scheme. I don't exactly know how to describe it, but a lot of people where they're paying for plastic because it's just sort of not that cool coin, or like really coins that aren't special. They get put in plastic holders that don't really mean anything but make the coins look official or something. This is separate from legit third-party grading services, really marketed coins, and they're marketed as investments. Somebody like grandpa goes and buys a $2,000 set of Morgan dollars that they saw on TV, and they're really worth like $800. And if you sold it to a coin dealer, they're going to be paying you $550, $600, so that they can sell it for like $700, $750 or so. But some fancy marketing, and then the people on TV can be very tricky about how they word things. They're like, this is a really, they're not saying investment, but they're saying a really great way to store value or something to put away for the grandkids. I've seen these sort of deceptive marketing tactics. It's like, come on, because it's really taking advantage of people, because a lot of people don't have the full capacity to do the research, or it's like, hey, I remember coins were great like 30 years ago, probably the same thing. And, all the time in coin shops are just inundated with these plasticky, over-marketed, massively overpriced sets that are worth nothing, next to nothing, or maybe, their silver melt value, but the people weren't paying close to melt. It wasn't a precious metals investment. So, that's really something that you should also be concerned about, or just sort of vigilant in terms of how are you going about with your coins, and watching out for the marketers getting the word out about these sort of deceptive tactics when selling coins. This also might be a little more complainy, but then, I'm thinking like people lose sight of what makes coins fun to collect. Like maybe it's great art on a coin. Maybe it's a super rare piece of history that, your ancestors could have traded in the mid 1800s from, in my case, like Germany. What's the history behind the coin? How is the luster and the coin itself, the metals, interacted with the air and the surrounding environment, and it tells a really cool story. There's so much like that's why I love coins. I think the values is cool, and I talk a lot about values because that gets a lot of people interested, and often the types of values I'm talking about, like a variety, also showcases like the production elements and how that has gone wrong. I don't know. Basically what I'm saying is coins should not be something that you get into, in my opinion, just for the money. Money could be a little bit of a part of it, but you just heard me explain how I collect, and it's not with the money perspective. It's like, here's a group of coins that I own that tells a story. That's really what I like. And I think a lot of people sort of flood into coins with no semblance of like understanding even the basics behind the coins. So hopefully some of those people can then have the reverse happen and come to appreciate them over time. But you can have people in coins for the wrong reason in a super hot coin market. There's two more things. So first, is actively a complaint makes the grading services slow down, but I'm not going to get too much into that. When the market is going up, people send their coins in to get graded because then they can sell them easily. And often the prices on like graded coins that aren't super rare. I was talking to Ben from the Coin Geek YouTube channel about this. The marketers who are kind of scamming people go and buy up a lot of the like mint state 62, 63 Morgan dollars, for example, as opposed to genuine end collectors. And, that can be a problem because, people are going to get hurt from that. But then there's also just the thing of like people sending in a bunch of coins, and that way coins that I want to send in and have back quickly take a longer time. But that's not too big of a problem. And I think the last thing is that people can get stuck at the top, and that can really turn them off of coins for the long term then. Because when you have a really hot coin market, sometimes it just goes like this, but often at least there's a little correction. And sometimes there's a big correction if you've seen what's happened to coins in the past. Like I was alluding to earlier with coin collections that are worth way less than they were like 40, 50 years ago. I mean, that is shocking if you look at, I don't know what the multiple of like the Dow Jones 40, 50 years ago versus today. And there's all sorts of crazy stuff that can happen. Look at like Japan, for example. But the point is, people can get stuck at the top or buy coins that are, they have potential to make, but it's like a not super liquid item, and they buy it at a price where, they could have some, it should work out well, but then if things slow down and there's not the buyer in this specific coin, it can be tough. I'm going to make a few videos about that in the future, sort of what coins can be slightly like trap coins or just a little bit tougher to deal with. Maybe they're really rare, but not the rarest, and low demand. There are some tricky things. So I'll talk about that more in a future video. But as you can see, there's just some things to watch out in a hot coin market, as I would contend we're in currently. Just want to be a little careful. And I hope that these talking points can give you some food for thought, and that you can have a better experience collecting as a whole. I try to do some of these opinion videos, these sort of collector tips videos. So if you have any ideas for some future ones, drop them in the comment section. I do read them, and I'll look forward to hearing from you. Thanks for watching the video. I'd encourage you to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel to stay updated. I've also got Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, so you can follow me there. TreasuretownYT.com is the main channel website. Definitely give that a visit. I've got a lot of information about me up there and the channel. CoinGrabBag.com as well currently redirects there, but it's some good opportunities for very fair grab bags, both made by me and other sellers. A lot of different options, so that's a good way to support. There's also TreasuretownCoins.com. In the future, my coin dealing operation will be done out of that website. CoinMeltPrice.com for updates on the melt prices of your coins, both US and world. A lot of resources in that website. And then CoinsMetals.Cards.com, being developed right now as a marketplace and news source for coins, metals, cards, and collectibles in general. So I'll see you on my future videos. Looking forward to seeing you there, and hope you have a good day.